Welcome to episode 305 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I am your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from our virtual studio on the internet by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man whose paternity leave is coming to an end, John Scott Sloat.
Doc, what's going on?
Well, you tell me what's going on. You've got the newborn.
Nights are a little tough, but days are wonderful. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay.
So sleep is a little hard to come by. Although we're doing okay. Like we're not. I've seen some parents who are just, dead to the world, and I don't think we're there.
Yeah.
So we're doing okay. I'd say we're like at a B plus. We're doing all right.
Okay. All right. And she's gaining weight.
Gaining weight, which is a positive step for sure, and eating more, which is another positive step.
Yeah, what a stage of life, right? Gaining weight's a good thing. Eating more is a great thing. Lots of sleeping.
Lots of sleeping. Yeah, she's got a little reversal on day and night right now that we need to sharpen.
Yeah, flip that body clock.
Yeah.
Yes.
The time change didn't help,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Well, if you would like to contact the show and give John some young parenting advice, you can find us on X at VNS Pod. You can email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube, and we would love for you to leave a 5-star rating and throw a review in there. I mean, say whatever you want. It can be funny. It can be snarky. It can be serious. That's your opportunity. But make it a 5-star rating. That's what really matters.
Absolutely.
All right, John. Let's talk a little sports. So we are in that sweet spot of the time of the year where basically everything's going.
Yeah.
I mean, baseball has just come to an end.
Baseball
right?
just ended.
Yep.
NBA is technically going currently.
Yeah.
Although
and those games count. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Football's in mid-season form here.
Yeah. And
then
I assume hockey has started, hasn't it? I think so.
I assume so. And then the Olympics are right around the corner as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Starting to see some advertisements for that. So
yeah. Where are the Winter Olympics? It's winter, right? Is that what we got next?
Yes.
Where are they at? Do you know?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't remember.
Because the Summer Olympics were in Paris.
Well, the next Summer Olympics are LA. That's in 28.
Correct. That's right. Boy, that's going to be a hot mess in Los Angeles. Let me tell you. Traffic.
Yeah. Indeed.
Traffic.
So let's start with some college football. How about that?
Sounds good. Yeah.
The Buckeyes took care of business against Penn State. They won 38-14. That game, it was close for about 5 minutes. Like Ohio State was in control of that whole game, and then they're up 17-7 with like a minute left in the first half, and then there was a dumb fumble. Penn State capitalizes scores. They're only down 3 at the half, but then Ohio State just absolutely put the vice lock on them in the second half, outscoring them 21-0. So Ohio State goes on to win 38-14. Julian Sayin was just electric. I mean, 20 for 23 and 300 and some odd yards, some touchdown passes.
What year is he? How far into his career is he?
He is a redshirt sophomore.
So you think he got what? One more year with him after this year?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he's terrific. Both Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate had big days. And so Ohio State looked very good. Penn State's a little down, obviously, with having lost some games and having fired their head coach and lost their quarterback. But that was the last hurdle that I saw that Ohio State has probably until they get to the weekend after Thanksgiving when they play that team up north. And so they should go into that game 11 and 0.
Yeah, I mean, they
And
basically have 3 bye weeks coming up with Purdue, UCLA, and Rutgers.
yeah, yeah, that they should not have any difficulties with those teams. Um, Elsewhere, Miami lost again. So they now have two losses. Their playoff hopes are in serious jeopardy. Texas has rallied. You know, they
Hmm.
lost to Ohio State to start the year, and they had now I'm blanking on who else they lost to. They lost somebody else. They have two losses, but now they've
They
rattled
beat
off several
Vandy.
wins,
Yeah.
and they beat Vandy, and so they seem like they've turned some things around. But
Georgia Tech lost.
they did. I was not sold that they were. Um, they were what 7-0, 8-0, but I was not sold that they were a great team, and so I don't think there's any great teams in the ACC.
Hmm.
So Miami, Georgia Tech, Virginia, Clemson's terrible. Like there's just no great ACC team this year.
Yeah, I think I saw Dabo Sweeney in a press conference started talking about getting fired from Clemson, uh,
Yeah,
which is
I mean
crazy to me.
they were preseason like number 3 or 4, something like that.
Have we talked about Brian Kelly getting fired from LSU?
Did we talk about that last week? I can't remember.
I can't remember either, but what does he have? Another 5 years left on his 10-year deal?
Well, it's something ridiculous. The buyout, I think, was something like 50, 54, 53
Man,
million, which is paid out over 5 years. And so it was something I saw some number where it was like he's going to get paid like $26,000 a day to not coach.
man, how do I get
Um,
that? How do I get
I know.
$26,000 a day to not do something?
Yeah.
That's tough.
But now that goes down. Most of these, at least I assume, these buyouts go down if that person finds another coaching job, right? So, if Brian Kelly goes out and gets hired, say at, I don't know, Michigan State or something, uh, the buyout drops significantly. It doesn't go away altogether, but it does drop. But in any case, just incredible.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And there were a couple more firings. Hugh Freeze at Auburn was fired after this weekend's games.
Oh, was he fired finally?
Yep.
Okay.
And I want to say there was one more, but regardless, there's going to be a good number of open positions. It'll be interesting to see how things shake out. But first, official college football playoff rankings come out this week.
Oh boy.
So, no more of this AP poll ridiculousness. We'll get to the actual committee making these decisions about rankings and that sort of thing. So, we'll see how that shakes out. Let's talk some NFL.
All right.
Your Jets had a bye, right?
Yes, my daughter has still not seen the Jets lose.
So, yeah, wow. I mean,
I know.
two consecutive weeks where you've not lost. That's saying something.
Yeah, feeling good.
Um,
We did make a trade. We traded a ventral cornerback for a kind of castaway second round wide receiver. So we got him from Philly.
okay. All right.
So we made that trade.
Very good.
And we've
Colts
got
lost.
we've got the
Go ahead.
Browns this weekend. That's who we've got this upcoming weekend.
Okay. And is that game, um, where's that game? Is that in Cleveland or is that in New York?
Let me check real quick. It's in New York
Okay.
or
All right.
New Jersey.
And is Garrett Wilson? I know Garrett Wilson did not play the last game. He has some sort of injury. Is it like a concussion or something? Like what?
Hyperextended his knee slightly.
I see. Okay. Because it's
So
interesting. I saw people trying to make the point of the offense looked better without him, in part because this is the claim. Well, they're not concerned about trying just to get the ball to Garrett Wilson. They're more diverse, and so they're more, dangerous. I don't know. I mean, they played the Bengals. The Bengals defense is terrible.
it's hard to
So,
draw a lot of conclusions from a Bengals defense like that.
yeah,
And their secondary is probably the worst in the NFL. And so there are second, third, and fourth string wide receivers were getting open.
yeah,
That's not good if you're the
yeah.
Bengals.
Speaking of the Bengals, did you catch any of the end of the Bears Bengals game?
I know the Bears won. I did not see the end of it. Was that the long field goal?
No. So, I flipped over to this game and the Bengals were down two touchdowns with like just over like 2 minutes left. Cincinnati scores pretty quick, and they go for two to get it. So they're down six. They do the onside kick, and they actually recover it, which is so rare. Like
Hmm.
onside kicks are almost never successful. They recover it, and then like 3 plays later, they score, and so they go up by uh, what would have been. So they were up by two because they kicked the up by once. No, up by one. Anyway, doesn't matter. They were up. Kicked the ball off to the Bears. The Bears have like 35, 40 seconds left. And because that Bengals defense is so bad, they gave up a long pass in the middle of the field and missed a couple tackles, and the Bears walk it in for so like 3 touchdowns scored in the last 2 minutes of that game. Just wild. That Bengals defense is so bad. So bad.
Hmm.
And then the other note that I took away from the weekend was the fact that Cam Little of the Jacksonville Jaguars broke the NFL record with a 68-yard field goal.
It does seem like these field goals are getting longer and longer, doesn't it? It feels like
Yeah.
50 is almost a given these days.
Yeah, it kind of feels like 50 is the new
Uh-huh.
40 in terms of like anything under 50 and you're like, "Oh, that's a lock." And then anything in the sort of the 50 to 60 you're probably probably you'll make it. And then over 60 you're like, "There's a chance." Whereas it
Yeah.
used to be like no one would even try one over 60. You'd be like, "That's ridiculous.
It
Who's
used to be
kicking 60 yards field goals?"
you had to get to the 35 as sort of like the cutoff. And it
Yeah.
was what, 17 yards?
Yeah.
So 45, 52 was sort of the cutoff. And now it feels like that's the floor for an NFL kicker.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is I, I know that there is a special kicking football that they use. Like they
Hmm.
don't use the same ball that they use for ordinary downs.
Right.
And so, part of me is wondering, like, I'm not denying the skill of the kickers, but part of me is also wondering, like with baseball, where you start to wonder, like, wow, there's a sudden burst of home runs everywhere. Are
Yeah.
they tampering with the ball? Are they doing that with the NFL kicking ball now? Like, do they
Sure.
do something with it that has made it a little bit easier maybe to kick it, 65, 70 yards on a field goal? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't know. Are they tying the lace? That's always in the baseball, are they tying the laces a bit tighter or, something like that? But you just never know.
Yeah. I don't know how I don't know how you would manipulate a football, but I don't know, maybe. Um, and we should probably mention at least the World Series. I know it pains you, but um,
The Dodgers are the new Yankees, I think.
yeah,
And they have, much like the Yankees, who had Derek Jeter, who was I think one of the better baseball players in the league at that time. The Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani, who went out there and you know I mean, in the 18 inning game, he got on base 9 times,
That's absurd.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is the best baseball player to ever walk the face of the planet. And I don't think it's particularly close.
Wow.
I like, I think the best baseball players before him, Babe Ruth, I think Barry Bonds is in that conversation. And oh, somebody else that I'm blanking on right now. Um, played with Barry Bonds' dad. Anyway, I'm blanking on it right now. But an
Hmm.
outfielder who is just incredible. And I think Shohei's better than all three.
Yeah, I will say it is difficult to compare across eras,
Yeah.
but at the same time, what Shohei is doing is it's unprecedented in the modern era of baseball to be that good of a hitter, uh, and that good of a pitcher. Like that
Hmm.
you just haven't had that for 100 years.
Yeah. And when he didn't pitch, the year he didn't pitch, his batting got better. So last season he had 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases.
Hmm.
He had a 50-50 season.
Yeah.
And now he's won back-to-back World Series with the Dodgers. And I don't see any reason why they don't win a third.
Well, I mean, the Blue Jays had every chance. They kind I mean, let's be honest. They kind of
Yeah,
choke is a strong word, but you know, they gave away opportunities to close that out. They were up 3-2 going home and couldn't win either game 6 or game 7. Led in game 7, 4-1 at one point. Led 4-2 going into the 8th, gave up the solo home run. Dodgers scored again in the ninth to tie it. They had the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth, couldn't get a run. So, all of those things were right there for them. And they just couldn't manage to convert. So,
yeah,
um, but in any case, got to tip your hat to the Dodgers. They came through in the clutch.
they sure did. They sure did. They played a good series and a good season.
Well, speaking of people who didn't come through in the clutch, we are continuing our series on Know Your Heretics.
Wow. Man, you only get that kind of transition with a high quality sports broadcasting education.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So, uh, we are moving on in our series, part 4 today, and we are talking about Montanus. Now, how do you typically pronounce it? Do you pronounce it Montanus or Montanus, or how do you typically pronounce it? Because you are
I
our expert pronunciation guru on the podcast here.
Yeah. Montanus is how I traditionally have
Okay.
pronounced it. But
Okay.
but yeah, I mean that should give you no confidence that's how it's actually pronounced, right?
All right. All right. All right. So, why don't you go ahead and set the stage for us? Who is this Montanus dude, and when was he active?
So Montanus is second century, so think 100s in that kind of 100 to 199, 100 to 200 year. And he was I believe a pagan priest for a time and eventually converted to Christianity and was in the sort of modern day Turkey area, Asia Minor, and uh, began to have what we would probably look at as a beyond charismatic experiences, where he would have visions. He would be speaking in what I think we now call tongues. I don't know if they called it tongues back then, but the ecstatic utterances. Um, and he would claim to be getting divine revelation from God himself, and at times would even claim to be the Holy Spirit. And so a lot of his heresy really flows from that.
Okay. All right. And so tell me a little bit about, how how popular was he? I mean, obviously the fact that we're talking about him indicates that he had must have some sort of following, but um did you said he was from the modern day Turkey area. Um how influential was he?
I mean,
Uh
I mean, every article you read about the guy, whether it's on Wikipedia or Encyclopedia Britannica, it's going to tell you we don't know much about him. We just know that he was around and people wrote about him. And so he seems to have been based in North Africa, or excuse me, in Turkey, but his teaching definitely got into Rome. Certainly, I don't think it gets the attention it does if it doesn't get to Rome and to the rest of the empire. So, and then as far south as North Africa as well. So it seemed, and from there you could probably say, well, it was probably in Judea, probably made its way to, France and Germany and those places as well.
okay.
Fairly
Um
widespread.
Gotcha. And so what were some of the other things that that he taught? You mentioned he claimed to be, the mouthpiece of God, claimed to receive new
Yeah.
revelation. What
He
were some
wrote
of the yeah.
he wrote letters claiming to be authoritative, kind of like Paul. He wrote as, kind of, I don't know if he would have called himself an apostle, but he certainly gave himself the earmarks of an apostle, right? Writing these letters, doing all this teaching, having all this new revelation. He's definitely a unique guy. He also uh, taught very apocalyptically, as I think many of these teachers do. At some level, Montanus is a recognizable figure to cult leaders of a sense, right? Right? We can see some of the sort of like, hey, Jesus is coming back like today or the next day or very,
Hmm.
very soon. He also, I read, said he had something of a prosperity angle to him, that this age of prosperity was going to come.
Hmm.
I only read that one spot. I debate whether even to mention it because it's so on the nose with the prosperity gospel today. And whether somebody's reading that back into what we Montanus, right? We're doing mirror reading with some of his beliefs because
Hmm.
we don't have his writings. We have people that refute his writings. So uh, yeah, so there was sort of this certainly apocalyptic. Certainly, Jesus is returning imminently and going to rule with Montanus, and he's going to come here to where I'm at and set up a new Jerusalem, things like that.
Hmm.
And this led to an intense morality, an intense, vigorous morality where celibacy for the movement was prescribed, which is not a great way to sustain a movement, just generally.
It is a little self-defeating,
Yeah, that's
unless
usually
you have.
my critique of the Essenes as well. The Essenes famously didn't procreate. And you know what? The Essenes didn't last long. Um,
You better have amazing evangelism if you're not if you're if you're going to prohibit procreation.
yeah, yeah. And then he would obviously recruit people that were married, and his prescription was always remain married. But there could be, you could leave your spouse for spiritual reasons, however
Hmm.
vague those are. He would say things like he could forgive sins. And so it led to this sort of, as we've seen this with some other heretics, right? This dichotomy between the spiritual is good and the physical is evil. And while
Hmm.
Montanus doesn't hammer that quite as hard as, say, the Gnostics or Marcion, it's still present, and it's interesting to see that crop up in the early church. And I wonder, and maybe this is a question for you, is that a human thing, or is that something that's, based on a little bit of Greek philosophy that was sort of in the air at the time? What do you think?
Are you talking about the
The
the du
dualism,
the dualism?
yeah,
Um, I feel like that was pretty baked into Greek thought, and so
Hmm.
I don't know that. I'm hesitant to call it just sort of generic, sort of timeless human tendency, but I do think it was pretty hardwired into Greek philosophy that uh, to overcome it, you had to do a lot of intentional, like, work to embrace the goodness of physicality and the body and matter, because that dualism feels pretty, like I said, pretty hardcore baked into to Greek thought as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Um, I think it's also worth mentioning that Montanus is certainly different than what we see in like Assemblies of God church today or continuationist churches today. But we do see some of this sort of teaching today, particularly out
Hmm.
of the prosperity gospel movement. There's a good bit of some of this hyper charismatic movement elements.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, so one thing that we have not talked about is there was one particular early church father who, as best I understand, was at least in some way affiliated with the Montanists. And that's our good friend Tertullian.
Mm. Being oh my goodness, where was Tertullian based? He's North African, isn't he?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
And so later in his life, I believe after Montanus was probably Montanus was probably dead by then. But later in life, Ter Tertullian became a Montanist, which is interesting in part because Tertullian played such an essential role in helping the church formulate its understanding of the Trinity.
Hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, it's interesting that you've got on the one hand we're talking about Montanist as a heretic, and yet you've got Tertullian, um, who later in life becomes a Montanist, and yeah, what do you make of that? Like,
I don't know what to make of it. He's it is, we're in a time before the canon's even established, right? And I think trying to trying to decipher what's right and what's wrong doctrinally is just
mhm.
a really tough thing to do. Particularly,
Yeah.
we don't know what Tertullian had access to. Did he have access to some of the apologetics against Montanus? We can assume so, but we don't know for sure. How late in life did Tertullian turn to this? Was there some sort of health condition or some sort of
Hmm.
mental deterioration that was going on that led to it? It's hard to know. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what Tertullian was drawn to uh, was the sort of the rigorousness of their faith, their
Mm,
seriousness in terms of kind of their asceticism. I think was probably what
yeah.
was attractive uh, to Tertullian, and uh, Montanus is one of those figures where um, it's they're not, it's not like they're. I would say that although they are a heretical group, their heresy is not as perhaps obvious
Hmm.
as some of the others that we've talked about and will talk about. But I think there's often a correlation. If you're someone who's a rigorous thinker, like Tertullian was, making these really fine distinctions and trying to understand the Trinity and that kind of thing, it makes sense that if you're that rigorous of a thinker, you might be that rigorous of a liver. In
Hmm.
other words, like that your lifestyle would be attracted to a group that was in fact very serious about a sort of ascetics type of life.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting fact that Tertullian was a part of that and led parts of it in North Africa and certainly gave it life.
Hmm. Yeah. So, um, you mentioned this earlier, but maybe we should probably expand on this. How would you distinguish Montanus from, uh, let's say our Pentecostal friends in terms of, we're other than I think I'm pretty confident you'd agree with me that that oneness Pentecostals are heretical.
Right, right. I mean, oneness Pentecostals deny the Trinity, right? I
Right.
mean,
That's kind of a non-starter there.
it's
So
very problematic.
yeah, but like you said, the Assemblies of God folks,
And it's
they're
kind of run-of-the-mill AOG
yeah,
people uh, that I'm sure you and I run into sometimes at conferences and things like that.
yeah.
They have colleges and seminaries, and
Hmm.
and by all measures are decent folk. Yeah, probably the big difference would be they're not centered around a human being like the Montanists were, right? Where Montanus is
Hmm.
going, I am the mouthpiece of God, I am the Holy Spirit, right? The Pentecostals would reject that soundly and just say,
Yeah.
no, you're not. uh,
No, you're not.
and now they would be at a spot with the Holy Spirit that I'm not necessarily at,
Hmm.
but and they would believe those gifts would display themselves in ways that I would disagree with and would be uncomfortable with, but not to the point that rises to the level of new revelation or new
Yeah.
special revelation or anything like that.
Right. Because my understanding is that one of the things that the Montanists did believe in was that idea of continuing revelation,
Yeah, that's right.
and that revelation could um, perhaps even trump or supersede what was found in the writing of the apostles.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't think most Pentecostals, like our Assemblies of God friends, are going to say that. Um, so I would see that as a difference. I think also that the um, the other defining mark that you mentioned is there sort of apocalyptic expectation, right? Of
Hmm.
expecting the imminent return of Jesus and being very focused on that. Not that, Pentecostals and Assemblies of God folks don't believe in the return of Jesus. They do,
Sure.
but it's certainly not as strong an emphasis as it was among the Montanists. And also the asceticism, not the Assembly of God folks are not interested in holy living. They clearly
Sure.
teach that,
Sure.
but asceticism is a whole nother level of uh, of of pursuing holiness that it goes beyond what most contemporary, I think, Pentecostals would probably be pursuing.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly there'd be some room on the margins for some of these abuses.
Hmm.
Right. I don't know that every AOG member in the pew would be able to articulate those, but I think the people the regular pastor that's been educated can walk you
Hmm.
through these
Yeah,
differences for sure.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So, yeah, fascinating stuff. The Montanus. It's to me the big thing that always just kind of makes me go interesting is that you've got Tertullian as
Oh
later
yeah.
in life converting and being a part of that. And you're like, but he's one of the guys that wrote extensively in the early church and helped us formulate what Scripture teaches about the Trinity. And so, yeah, just, you know, one of those interesting little wrinkles for sure. But all right, John, time now for this day in sports history.
All right, this day in sports history, November the 4th, 2025, also known as Brent Mengarelli's birthday, is November the 4th.
Hey, there you go.
I don't think he listens to the podcast
No, no.
ever, but it's his birthday. All right, 1934, after posting 7 straight shutouts to start the NFL season, the Detroit Lions beat the Steelers 40-7 at University of Detroit Stadium, scored upon for the first time of the season, uh, and they rushed for an NFL single game record of 426 yards.
That's a lot of yards on the ground.
So they were just dominating. I couldn't tell by the way that was worded whether the Detroit Lions were losing, being shut out, or shutting others out. But it sounds like they were shutting others out.
They were shutting others out, yes.
1975, Orioles Jim Palmer wins his second Cy Young Award.
Yep.
1990, 20th New York City Women's Marathon won by Wanda Panfil in 2 hours and 30 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Go Wanda. 2001, Baseball World Series, Arizona beats the Yankees 3-2. 3-2 in Game 7 at Bank One Ballpark in Phoenix for the Diamondbacks' first title. Co-MVPs, Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling.
Yeah.
Weird.
That was their
Co-MVP,
1-2 punch.
right?
Yeah.
That was a
Randy
great
Johnson.
pitching duo.
Randy Johnson was just a freak. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh yeah.
wasn't he like 6? He was huge, like 6'8", something like
Yeah.
that.
Something 6'7", 6'8", something.
Yeah.
2012 Federation Cup women's tennis in Prague, Czech Republic. Lucy Safarova beats Jelena Jankovic of Serbia 6-1, 6-1 to get the home team a 3-1 win in the final.
I think that's pretty close. I think actually Safarova is probably right, though. Again, I mean, there are accent marks over half of the letters in that name. So, but it is, I believe it's Yelena Yankovic. I believe the J has the Y sound there.
Instead of Jankovic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, those are just things I am not good at.
All right. So we've ruled out the women's tennis players because you can't pronounce their names.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So looks like we're down to Jim Palmer, Wanda Panfil, or Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling.
I would probably go Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling personally.
Okay. All right. Well, we might just go with one of them in the show title. So maybe Randy Johnson. Let's do that.
Randy Johnson. All right. Matt's canceling Kurt Schilling here because of his politics. I see how
Clearly.
this is going. Yeah.
Clearly, obviously what's happening. I'm glad you identified my hidden agenda there.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
all right. One thing you liked.
I mention this at least once a year, but the last quarter of the year or so, I listened through Lord of the Rings audiobook narrated by Andy Serkis, and I am in the midst of that, and it's quite enjoyable.
Okay. Got to
Andy
find some way to
Serkis
pass the
Andy
time
Serkis.
when you're
Yeah.
you know, trying to get your young daughter to go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the middle of the night. Mia does not like to sleep in the middle of the night for whatever reason. But yeah, Andy Serkis, of course, played Gollum in the
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings movies and The Hobbit, and he does a fantastic job with voices.
What platform do you access that on?
I've started buying them on Audible.
Okay.
That way I just have them going forward.
Mm-hmm. All right. Very good. Very good. So I'm going to go with the start of the Grace men's basketball season. So I've I've called two of their games so far. They are 3-0. They had a game on the road that I wasn't on the mic for, but man, this is a fun group of players to watch. They have brought in six freshmen. Five of them are getting significant minutes and are already significant contributors. So
I heard the game on, was it Friday night? Was very exciting.
yes. So Friday night they beat number 19 ranked Morningside out of Iowa. And they started off that game down 15-0. Didn't score for the first 5 minutes of the game. And still ended up scoring 96 points for the game and winning by something like 15, I think. So
they can really fill it up.
they can really score. Yeah, they are hard to defend because they have a range of guys who can score the just at all levels, from behind the 3-point arc, mid-range, at the rim. So what'll be interesting to see is their whole roster is basically a group of guys between 6'5" and 6'8", tall, long, athletic. One of my concerns is how are they going to defend against teams that are, smaller, quicker guards on the perimeter there. But by contrast, then those smaller, quicker guards have to guard our guys that are 6'5", 6'6". And,
Sure.
So it will be interesting to see, how that all shakes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a good season so far. Just a good start. It'll be fun to see these freshmen develop and take on their roles and learn how to play them. And Coach Moore has done a good job of getting his guys to buy into team basketball and not caring like who ends up being the leading scorer, or they share the ball well. The ball moves really, really quickly in terms of passing, and just they're a lot of fun to watch. So it should be an entertaining season for the Lancers. And that is my one thing I liked. All right, John, we have talked about some college football. We have talked about Montanus, the self-proclaimed mouthpiece of God. We have talked about Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling. We have talked about the Lord of the Rings audiobook, read by Andy Serkis, right?
Serkis, yes.
Yeah, okay. And we have talked about the start of the Grace Lancers men's basketball season. And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.